People say that the secret to getting what you want is to just believe, to have conviction that it is done, that it is yours, that it's inevitable. But maybe trying to have full belief is the very thing that's actually keeping you stuck. Today I want to shift how you think about belief, how you think about doubt and certainty. Let's get into it. Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Lorena, I'm a somatic self-concept and identity coach, and I support you in bridging the gap between who you currently are or perceive yourself to be and who you desire to be or become, so that you can break all the patterns in your life that keep repeating, that you want to escape, so that you can create a reality that you can't wait to wake up to every day. There is this statement by Christian mystic Neville Goddard. He said, "An assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact." The premise of this is basically, if you assume something to be true, even if it currently isn't, it will become true. Now, this statement kind of assumes the need for full conviction. In fact, when you hear that this is how you manifest anything you want for yourself, you might create pressure because maybe you have doubts, maybe you have fears, maybe you have trouble to get yourself into a place of full belief, full faith. Now, the problem with this statement or this assumption of needing to have full belief, full conviction is twofold. Number one, we're human. You're not emotionless. You're not free of doubt. And to an extent, you'll never be. I'll give a caveat to this, bear with me, but pressuring yourself to have to assume something to be true or to believe in the inevitability of something that you don't currently believe in, it can just create a lot of self-criticism. It can amplify feelings or beliefs of not being good enough. And it can perpetuate the very belief systems that you're actually wanting to break. The second problem is that aside from you being human and not a robot, going really hard, all in on a belief or an assumption and shutting everything else out, which is what I hear a lot of people are taught. A lot of people are taught to affirm themselves into oblivion, to bypass everything they are truly feeling, and then whatever they want is going to happen. I'm very much against that bypassy toxic bullshit. But aside from that, what that does is it doesn't make the beliefs that were previously there go away. So if you go really hard in on the belief that you are successful in your career, and in reality, you've been trying to get promoted for the past 7 years without results, the frustration with not having seen results isn't going to disappear. You're just hiding it from yourself. Now, this doesn't go anywhere. In fact, it will come out in some way. So then it will either manifest externally, no matter what you assume, or it might manifest in your body or in your emotional body where you then feel a general sense of dissatisfaction or you experience emotional outbursts or other things. And that can then really make you feel disillusioned with the process. And something that I often hear from clients when they begin to work with me is that they have lost faith because they had followed advice for changing their self-concept that wasn't sustainable or that flat out didn't work. And when you do that for long enough, you get burnt out. You get feelings of frustration, defeat, anxiety, powerlessness, and it almost creates the sense of manifestation trauma. I'll talk a bit more about trauma in a moment, but if you wonder what I mean by manifestation trauma, I mean that there's a lot of messaging in the spiritual space in general, but especially in the manifestation space, that creates, mostly unintentionally, trauma responses through pressure, through fear-mongering, through diminishing self-worth, guilting, shaming, and so on. I have a whole series on the topic, Is the Manifestation Community a Cult?, where I actually do a deep dive into this. So I'll link the playlist for that in the description box below if you want to go on a little binge. But you don't have to get to the place of getting burnt out, exhausted, feeling powerless. In fact, if you only take one thing away from this video, I want it to be that you shouldn't lose faith. No matter how much you tried to change your circumstances, no matter how much you've been wanting to break out of patterns and you can't seem to stop them from repeating, do not lose faith. There is a way. okay? Maybe you've been in that place where you got burnt out, or maybe you're currently there. And if that's the case, it's really important to acknowledge that because, well, I do a lot of trauma resolution work with my clients in my coaching program, Recreate Yourself. And it's such an important part of the process of changing your self-concept in general. It's also a really big part of creating the life you desire. Because when it comes to the big stuff, the stuff that is really emotionally charged, the things that your heart is longing for, it's not as simple as just visualizing your way into that future, into that reality. So trauma work, trauma resolution is a big part of the work I do with my clients. But for some of them, a lot of the trauma work we do is also about unlearning what they've been taught online from communities, from other coaches. So if you're in the place where you feel just a bit disillusioned with the spiritual world, the manifestation world, we can definitely work through that and get you to find your trust in yourself, in your own intuition, rather than looking outside of yourself. And if you're not in that place, even better, because you don't even have to get there. And we can do it properly, healthily, and sustainably from the start. But let's dive a bit deeper into the nature of doubt. Because if we want to talk about having full faith, full conviction, and we want to talk about whether it's possible, and if so, how and in what way, then we need to talk about the flip side of that, which is doubt. Now, doubting is human. Trying to get yourself into a place where you never ever doubt again goes into the realms of toxic positivity. Toxic positivity here meaning denying or suppressing negative emotions and always having a positive attitude or mindset or outlook, no matter what the situation looks like. That is not healthy. It's not sustainable. There's a difference between emotionally healthy optimism, being genuinely optimistic and full of faith, versus bypassing negative emotions, sensations, and thoughts. Because the latter does not help you. Because the thing is, whilst you're never gonna be fully free of doubt, it's just not gonna happen. The more you try to force belief, the more you will naturally doubt. So yes, you're never gonna be fully free of doubt, but you can definitely increase your doubt or turn it into almost like your natural state of being by trying to push yourself to stop doubting. What you resist persists. It's as simple as that. If you fight against the thoughts and the doubts and the fears that you have, they will just get louder. Let me know if this resonates, if you've ever tried to force belief only to feel worse after, or to notice that your true beliefs would resurface at some point, because you're definitely not alone. It's something that I see all the time. And then the other key piece we need to talk about, aside from doubt, and this is what I touched on earlier, is trauma. Specifically, how trauma affects self-trust and your faith in your desires. Because trauma naturally affects your ability to trust yourself and your ability to trust in your future and your desires. The reason you don't have faith is often because of your trauma. Because maybe in the past you did believe once or twice or maybe even 37 times. And maybe you got hurt, you got disappointed, you got betrayed, whatever it is. Now, having an experience like that, especially multiple times, that creates trauma. And the more trauma you hold on to, the less you trust yourself, the less you trust your ability to create a different future, different outcomes, the less you believe that things can change. So if you're currently in a place of, I don't even believe it's possible anymore, that's a trauma response. Often, when we deal with trauma, we're very much in black and white thinking. It's all or nothing, yes or no. There's no nuance, there's no gray area, there's nothing in the middle. And shaming yourself for doubting is a trauma response too, by the way. And I deliberately spoke about how trauma impacts your ability to trust yourself is because trusting the process means you're trusting yourself. All trust is essentially self-trust. So if you want to have faith in your desires, if you want to have conviction in the inevitability of the future that you want, if you want to trust that a greater intelligence, God, the divine, the universe, whatever you want to call it, supports that, then you first need to trust yourself. You also need to have the capacity in your nervous system to handle challenges. That's self-trust too, which is why you'll find that a lot of the work that I do with my clients is about healing trauma and working with the subconscious, creating safety in your body and in your nervous system, because that self-trust is the foundation for you to create faith, create belief, create conviction. So can you have 100% belief in the inevitability of what you desire being reality or becoming reality. To answer this question, to explore this, let's look at what full conviction even looks like and how to define it. Because if your definition of full belief, full faith, full conviction is that you never ever doubt, that's a no. Then it's not possible. I kind of covered that earlier. And by the way, the hardest time to trust and to stay in conviction and to stay in belief is if you are in kind of an in-between period. You have committed to something, you have claimed a desire, claimed a new version of yourself, but the external world does not yet reflect that. When you're in the middle of the unfolding or nothing is moving, that's when it's the hardest. I have a free masterclass on this as well. I will link the replay to that below. It's called The Bridge, and it's all about navigating the middle, navigating the unfolding of your manifestation, essentially. It's one of my favorite masterclasses I've ever done. But to me, full conviction doesn't mean being free of doubt. It means something else. And that something else means, yes, it's very much possible. Now let me explain. Full conviction might not mean that you're never doubting ever again, but it does mean that the certainty that you have created is coming from within, not from external results. And it does mean that you have an immense level of self-trust. It also means that you believe more than you don't, and that belief feels natural. Now, almost every client that comes to work with me and Recreate Yourself comes into this program doubtful. They often have tried a lot of different things to step into their desired self-concept. They've often been on the journey of trying to make certain desires reality for a long time, many months, often years. They've been in patterns and cycles and loops for ages. So naturally, they often feel very disillusioned. They feel very doubtful. And they come into Recreate Yourself despite making this investment, despite clearly wanting this support. They often have this fear of like, what if this also doesn't work? And that's often because of previous experiences, because of them having tried for such a long time. And so that's why there's often a lot of work on reprogramming and unlearning what they've done before. But when they finish the program, yeah, some of them come out of it having experienced incredible results, incredible external manifestations. And for others, the physical results just take a bit longer, which is fine, which is great actually, because it's about sustainable, long-lasting results, not quick shifts that don't last, that you can't maintain. But what every woman comes out of this program with when they really commit, when they really do the work, is this feeling that anything is possible for them. And that feeling, even if you don't have full conviction that what you want is 100% inevitable, that feeling of anything is possible for me, that's a liberation from doubt. That doesn't mean that doubt never pops up, but that is a deep level of self-trust. Because even though that's not necessarily a constant, yeah, it's done all of the time, there's always this undercurrent of, yeah, of course it's possible. I believe more that it's happening than I don't. And self-trust is really the goal. And actually, this took me a while to even realize, because this was a result that clients experienced over and over again. And only after a while, I was like, maybe I should talk about this, because it's not usually what we seek when we go into changing our self-concept or creating a new reality. We maybe seek self-worth and confidence and magnetism. We maybe seek external results, but we don't usually want to change our self-concept because we want to trust ourselves more. And yet that has been one of the most profound and most important shifts that come out of this work, that come out of this program. Self-trust is really the most important goal, because having that stability in yourself, in your self-concept, in your nervous system, that leads you to taking different actions. That leads you to behaving differently, to your thoughts and your feelings naturally being different, having a different baseline, a different identity. And that then means you're aligned with the future you want. And when you show up that way, when you just are that way, which is what it really means to change your self-concept, to recreate yourself, get it? Then belief comes with ease, because it's just a natural byproduct of who you are and not something that you need to get yourself to. So can you still get what you want if you have fears along the way? Yes. Yes, you don't need to believe 100%. You don't need to believe at all times in order to make something happen. Take that weight off your shoulders, okay? Take that pressure off. But you do need to have the capacity, the knowledge, the emotional integration and mastery and the embodiment that makes the doubt irrelevant and that makes you capable of navigating it in a powerful way. You don't need to force belief. You need to build trust in yourself. When that is in place, conviction becomes not something you chase, but something you embody, where you no longer chase belief, but become the version of you who no longer needs to question it. Let me know if you ever felt like you needed to force belief in order to manifest something. What's your definition of certainty and conviction? I would love to know if it aligns with what I shared here, or if you have a different perspective. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and then I'll see you in next week's video, where I don't know what we'll explore. It's gonna be a surprise, so I'll see you next week.